Welcome to Skills to Pay Your Bills. I'm your host, Don Moragne, and this is a special segment called the Wealth Zone University. And by now, you know what our credo is, so say it with me. To change your mind about money so that you can change your financial future. Over the last couple of segments, we've been talking about being in business because we believe being in business for yourself is a road to economic independence. And so we're going to talk about that some more today. And I'm fortunate enough to have as my guest John Hale III, and he's the CEO of the Cornerstone Group. John, welcome. Thank you for spending some time with me. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me here.
Good, good.
Glad to be here with you.
Now, the Cornerstone Group, can you tell us what the company does, what it does best, what its areas of expertise happen to be?
Well, thank you, Don. Yeah, I'd be happy to share that with you. So,
Okay.
we at the Cornerstone Group, we are a business advisory firm. So we focus on companies and their CEO and their ownership, and we help them to quite simply be a trusted advisor and coach to help them to grow their business and meet their goals over a 3 to 5 year period.
Okay, so is it any size business, or do you have to have a certain level of revenue in order to work with the Cornerstone Group?
Well, thank you, Don. Very good question. We'll focus on any size business. We like to have primarily at least $1 million in revenue and up. But in certain special circumstances, if you're a startup, we'll work with you and your startup team as well.
Okay, sounds good. So my understanding is that the Cornerstone Group basically tries to help businesses become sustainable and help them to actually fit themselves into the government, commercial, and international markets. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is, Don. Okay. What we really want to focus on the company as we look at their growth strategy and what is your strategic plan going forward. And we combine two unique skill sets.
Okay.
One is focused on the operational and the financial aspects of your business. Do you have enough money to operate? Do you have the right type of capital? Or if you need more, where can you go find it? And how can we help to coach and mentor you to be able to get the capital?
Okay.
Be it from an institution of a bank, high net worth individuals, whoever else you may know. And then the other side of it is we help you with the operations of your business. Is you're currently serving your customers. How can you become more profitable with the work you're already doing?
Okay.
And then the third thing is focused on the revenue growth. After we do the first two is how can we grow your revenue? And we focus on your company is what do you do different in the marketplace? What distinguishes you from your competition? And also, do you know the cost that you incur to deliver your services to your customers? Quality services on time. What is your cost to do that? You'll be surprised. Many companies don't know the true cost to deliver their service.
I agree with you 100%. So let's get to the person behind the company now. So John Hale, when did you start the company? Why did you start the company? And what did you do before you joined us on the entrepreneurial side?
Yeah, Don, well, I had a previous experience of a banking and finance background.
Okay.
So I'm trained as a commercial loan officer. Did that at two super regional banks. I was a vice president of the bank, lending money to companies. Then I spent time restructuring companies as well. About 5 or 6 years where you'd have, in some cases, not every company makes money like they plan to. So I'd be the interim CFO for companies that ran under some type of losing money.
Okay.
I'd help to restructure those companies and actually turn those companies around. And then most recently, I started the Cornerstone Group in January 2017 after the honor of serving President Barack Obama.
Okay.
I was a political appointee there, thank you. It was an honor I wanted to have a career that went inside, in the commercial sector, but also had some time in public service. So at the SBA, I was a deputy administrator for the Access to Capital Group.
Was that an Obama appointment?
Yes, Obama appointment.
Okay.
And we were in charge of about 13 locations, $35 million budget. And we focused on administering the SBA loan programs, the surety bond, the 7A, the 504, all those loan guarantee programs. And then I joined in my second assignment administration was at the Energy Department, where I was the director of the Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization.
And that acronym is ASDBU. I love that.
ASDBU, yeah, that's one. That's always just be a government crossword puzzle with all the acronyms. But the ASDBU is the director of the Small Business Department of Energy. And so when I worked there, we were in the middle of getting 4 consecutive Fs on our small business scorecard. So the so the SBA has a public scorecard at sba.gov, you can see.
Okay.
And every agency gets a grade. Like you got a grade in high school, college, middle school. You got an A or an F. So we were getting 4 different Fs.
Okay, this is the Department of Energy.
Yes, in the midst of that. And so when I came over, I was able to turn that around. And when I left, we got 2 consecutive A's on our scorecard.
Wow, okay, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and that translated to another about $2.3 billion in additional obligations to small businesses.
Okay, that you were able to provide.
I was able to provide, yes.
Okay.
So I reported right to the secretary. And interesting conversation when I started, the chief of staff set me down. He said, and he put 3 different mugs on the desk. The biggest mug was President Obama. The next biggest one was Secretary Moniz. The smallest of the 3 mugs were you. And he said, use a military term, you were 2 down from the flagpole. The secretary is a physicist from MIT, brilliant man. He's never had an F in his life. And he's pretty competitive about why am I getting these Fs? And so long and the short of it is working right with him and his team. He invested about $20 million in the small business program at the Energy Department. And so we were able to turn it around working with the career staff there as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So presidential appointee folks, I mean, how many do we actually get the chance to sit down and talk with? You know, presidential appointee, that's fantastic.
And so that led me to starting the Cornerstone Group. My concern was my passion working primarily with mid-cap and small businesses most of my career has been why were all these companies struggling, particularly in the government contracting realm, but even outside of that. And it came down to a couple different areas that we focus on. CPR is what I like to call it.
Okay.
Capital, partnerships, and revenue. So the capital is...
Say that again. CPR,
capital, partnerships, and revenue.
Okay.
And the focus there is simply some companies did not have or couldn't get access to capital to get bigger contracts, be they inside the government or outside the government. And from a partnership standpoint, who are your strategic partners? We all have them, we all need them. They could be your banker, your lawyer, consultant, other firms in the industry, but success is a team sport. And you're gonna wanna have to bring someone else along the ride with your success, and you can be part of their success.
Okay.
Then of course, revenue. And we wanna focus on the revenue, and particularly go from focus on your cash flow, but then wealth creation as well. And what I mean about that is as you're gritting your revenue and you're growing your company, what do you spend that money on? And so those are some of the traps and snares that businesses were falling into. I saw it in my role before government, then once I was in government, and I said, hey, I have a passion here, and I really loved working with the owners of the business, and so that's what we do now. So
did the CPR come out of your restructuring experience, or what the CPR, where did it come from for you?
For me, it came from 2 things. One, restructuring, but also though behind CPR, I think of that when I was a kid. You go to the Y, you become counselor, you know, they train you on the dummies. You know, everyone's breathing on it, and they give you that little nasty alcohol to wipe away. And you know, and you get taught CPR with the dummy that comes in there. So you know, to smell that alcohol. But I thought about we all need air.
Okay. And
businesses need air. And we think about air, you think about the wind and the metaphor of having, you know, wind behind your sails when you're in the ship. And so the idea of CPR, then it was also the acronym people are familiar with, but it will focus their attention on what I think are 3 most important things. The capital, do you have the right mix of capital, and do you know what capital you have in need? Then looking at the partnerships, and then look at the revenue growth. So also to be able to focus businesses and some of my clients' attention on those. Okay. Yeah. So capital, partnerships, and revenue. Right.
Okay, we've got to remember that. Those 3 things are now condensed into an acronym that we can remember, because as far as the 2 of us are concerned, those are the 3 most important things that we can start doing correctly in business.
In business, definitely.
And so your turnaround experience allows you to go into companies that are not doing so well and determine how to make them better. Now, is Cornerstone Group focused on government contracting only, commercial and government contracting?
Very good question.
Where do you focus?
Yeah, and we focus on a couple of primary areas. And also, it's not just in the turnaround capabilities. That experience has given us insight into how businesses operate. Do they have the infrastructure, systems, and processes? You mentioned an important word later, sustainability. How many companies' revenue do we see yo-yo up and down? They get a couple big contracts, they have a nice vertical line going up, and at some point, these contracts will end, they'll expire, and so either recompete them or that program just ends and now you drop back off. So it's really focused on that sustainability, the insights to what makes a company tick and operate those systems and infrastructure and processes that get glazed over an awful lot of times, that really enables us to focus on that from a sustainability standpoint. I really love that word you use, sustainability.
Well, you know, in my experience, I've seen that a lot in government contracting.
Right.
Revenue goes up, graduate from the program,
Yep.
and then it starts gradually but continually going down because obviously they didn't learn how to run the business
Right.
while they were in that protected environment. Do you find that also?
I find that also, and I find that within that environment, that sustainability should have three separate legs. One in this area, I mean, government contracting, I always tell my clients that the federal government's a great customer, but during my tenure, we had a government shutdown. Unfortunately, we had another one. We had sequestration, and we had CRs every year. So you also, if you look at a three-legged stool, you should be looking to export your products and services and looking at the commercial market.
Okay.
And so between those three legs of the stool gives you a diversification from a sustainability standpoint. And also, if you ever want to sell your business one day, that's an exit for many business owners, entrepreneurs to grow it and either sell it intentionally or have a competitor come and buy them or a large company come and buy them.
Yeah.
You have to have value.
You have to have value, absolutely.
And if you have a mix in your customer bases, if you're exporting, also with federal government, I put federal, state, and local government, also have commercial customers, that can increase your valuation quite a lot for your business. And so our focus is on, we don't really focus just on government contractors, but we focus on just businesses in general, whether inside or outside the federal government. And so some of our clients will come to us just because we understand federal government contracting and say, hey, we want to also, we bought a company, or we picked up a contract, we want another one, or we want to diversify from the commercial sector, and we want some federal government contracts.
Okay.
Can you demystify this for us and help us navigate that process?
And demystify federal contracts is something that's an excellent word.
Yes.
So now we've got CPR,
Yep.
and now we've got diversified revenue in this three-legged stool,
Right.
government, commercial,
And export.
and export.
Yes.
Okay. So is export and international kind of the same thing?
Yes, it can be.
Okay.
The interesting thing is when I was at the SBA has a international business unit, and one of the gentlemen would always laugh and say, he would go to these conferences and hand out these little globes or little balls, like these little tension balls, except it's a globe.
yeah.
And he would say, hey, if you have a website, you have an international business.
Okay. That's a concept.
And the idea of exporting is, we're in a global world. We can see this is from the news that we're interconnected. What's going on in Europe or China, how their economy is doing, impacts us. And so as small and mid-sized companies, we're nimble enough where we should look to export markets as well.
Okay.
And we can help facilitate that process. And there's many great resources that I always joke with folks. If you pay your taxes, there's plenty of federal and state resources to help you as well.
I like that. We're going to take a break in half a second. We'll be right back, and we're going to continue our discussion with John, okay? Hi, everyone. The objective of the Wealth Zone University is to change your mind about money to change your financial future. Hi, I'm your host, Don Moragne. In the Wealth Zone University, my guests and I talk about a wide variety of business, financial, and other worldly topics. We are seeking to both educate and entertain you. We emphasize that the informations and discussions are my opinion, perspectives, and ideas, and those of our guests. We in no way intend to deliver or provide financial, tax, or business advice. You should consult with your tax, accounting, financial, insurance, and legal advisors regarding the impact, application, or pertinence of any topic or opinion that we share on the Wealth Zone University. Thank you for being a part of our audience, and please continue to communicate with us through email and Twitter because this is your show. Welcome back to the Wealth Zone University. Before we left, we were having a great discussion with my new friend, John Hale. And so we're going to jump back right in it with him again, because there are a few points that I want to make sure that we cover with John. You shared with me during the time we were interviewing a series of articles that you wrote for a magazine called the Federal Set Aside. And
Set Aside Alert.
Set Aside Alert. Thank
Yes.
you for clarifying that. Yeah, that's right here. If I could read, that'd be dangerous. And so, but there are a couple of things that you said in that article that really, really captured me in terms of being able to share with the average business owner. And one of the things that you said is that federal agencies prefer to work with firms that they know and trust.
Yes.
Expand on that for me.
Sure. Know and trust. And when you work with a federal agency, you're working with individuals. And particularly, you've got 3 different sets of, broadly speaking, of individuals. One would be the small business professional, like I was OSBU director there.
And OSBU is, again?
The Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization.
So let's stop for a second.
Yes.
Tell me what that office does.
Sure. So the OSBU office was formed in legislation in 1978. And the purpose of the OSBU office is to give an internal advocate for small businesses within each federal agency, particularly the larger, we call them CFO agencies, which are about 24 or 26 agencies.
Okay.
And the idea is to give you an advocate on the inside who can help you navigate and understand the mission of that agency, contracting opportunities, and also how the money flows within that agency. And the theory behind that was that many large companies can afford to hire salespeople and business development folks that will walk the halls of federal agencies because that's their job. They can afford a payroll and have dozens of people do that. Where if you and I are a small business, we can't afford those people right away.
So I, as a small business, want to learn more about the Department of Energy and what it does and provides. So I'd come to the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization.
Yes.
And you would help me to learn how to navigate the Department of Energy.
Yes, we would educate you about our structure, the hierarchy, our agencies, specifically the missions and the type of work we do. And you could also learn about some of the challenges that we do, that the agency has.
Excellent. So again, just staying with OSDIBU for a minute, how does a company connect with OSDIBU? Do they go to procurement conferences? Do we just walk in the door?
Yep, very good question. So the best way to do that would be through conferences.
Okay.
Energy, we have a national conference. Different agencies have their own events, outreach events. They can be meet and greets that they will have those periodically throughout the year. And so that is one of the best way to do that. We will see people on occasion, but as you can understand, getting hundreds of calls, you can't see every business that comes in.
Sure.
So being able to actually meet a OSDIBU official at an agency conference, or you could go to, for instance, a hub zone conference, a women's conference, 8A conference, we'll have representatives from the agencies, and typically they'll either be the procurement officials, but most times they'll be someone from the OSDIBU office as well.
Okay, and so once I make that, now we're talking about, in order for you as the officer to recommend me for a job, you've got to know me, you've got to trust me, and you have to know what my capabilities are.
Right, and so part of that is when you first meet someone, you know, the old adage, you have one chance to make the first impression. So as you're approaching an agency, want to learn about it, if you've prepared yourself beforehand and can ask some pointed questions and some educated questions, because no one expects you to know everything, but they can tell that you are informed. And also, if you want someone to help you on the other side of the conversation, what are you asking for? Be clear about that. Be specific about that.
Okay.
So you're actually giving them a way to help you.
Good. And my being able to articulate what my business does also entails my knowing what your agency does and what your agency wants, right?
Yes, and the beauty of, in 2019, is most agencies obviously will have a website that you can obviously research, and then you can go definitely a little bit further than that. They'll have strategic plans, some which may be a little bit stale. But if you look at that agency, you have they had particularly a testimony on the Hill. Every year there'll be recorded budget hearings that you can get a sense, because the budget hearing will tell you what that agency's priorities are.
And so one of my responsibilities as a business owner is to understand the bigger picture, the economics, not just coming to you and Department of Energy and say, you know, I want government contracts. You have to understand the entire thing.
Understand a little bit of the bigger picture. And then also, you know, a couple hidden tips would be, look at GAO reports on agencies. That will give you, so wherever there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. An agency's challenge is the business owner's opportunity. Because they need a solution. And as you know, a GAO report will go to the Hill. It could be picked up in the, the Post or Bloomberg or someplace else, Wall Street Journal, depending on the issue. So that will get the attention of the public on the Hill. And so they may need a solution, and you may be the provider of that solution.
Absolutely.
So if they say they have no challenges, well, you know they've got a couple. If you have the GAO report in your hand, well, I know you've got these 5, and here's how we can help you.
That's good. You have a term called the add water business.
Yes.
What is an add water business? I just think of Kool-Aid.
Yes, perfect, perfect. Yes, add water business is a Kool-Aid business. As a kid, you think about in the summer what you can make, or the lemonade, the Tang, or the Kool-Aid, or whatever you'd have. Just add the cold water, some ice, and mix it and go. The add water business is, the concept is, you want to make it easy as the entrepreneur and business owner for people to help you.
Okay.
So you've got to be, number one, you have to be coachable. So when you come to be at the OSBU's office or anyone in the government, program official, contract officer, you've got to be coachable. And by add water business, meaning you've got to be in a position where the person on the federal side feels confident enough in you that if they give you some suggestions and tips, you do them, and you do them in a timely manner, and you get back to them. Okay. So they will, for instance, give you some suggestions about contract opportunities. If they give you some suggestions about follow up from a capability briefing that you may have, those types of things, then you need to be able, they need to have confidence you can turn around and you can go do those. Okay. That you're sophisticated enough to be able to do those.
Good. Now you mentioned contract officer.
Yes.
And then you mentioned program officer.
Yes.
What's the difference between those
two? Thank you for a very good question. So the advocate primarily is the OSBU office. Okay. The contract officer actually has the warrant. They will write the money for the contract. Okay. So they are entitled to have the warrant that Don can sign this contract for $5 million. And they work with the program official. And the program official will run that department. And they are working with the contract officer saying we have specific needs. We need more engineers. We need more scientists. Or we need research and development. They will articulate the need, and the contract officer will translate that into a contract and sign it.
So do I, as a business person, have to have a relationship with the advocate, the contract officer, and the program officer? All three?
Yeah, it is best to have as many relationships as you can have. Okay. And in many cases, the program official can be the most powerful in that occasion. Because they are the one that has the responsibility for delivering that mission or that work. So if you're, for instance, if you're in the Department of Energy and you have to transport hazardous waste across the country, that is, as the government official, as the SES, GS 15 or 14, you're in charge of that program, that is your career, that's your responsibility. So you want to have confidence when it can do that. So if you gain that person's trust and they get to know you, then they can kind of, have a informal influence in where that award goes and kind of how it's made.
Got it. And so in that whole process, it's really, you mentioned capability statements and elevator pitches.
Yes.
How important are those things, and what should a small business owner be doing in those two areas to talk to these three important people?
Thank you, Don. Very good question. Just the important thing to remember is that people are busy and have a lot of priorities. And so you need to make your information as clear and concise as possible. And so your capability statement, capability briefing materials should be very clear. They shouldn't be too cluttered. I say sometimes you should be able to pass the glance test. If I hand something to you at a conference or I meet you and I hand you this, I should be able to combine that with the elevator pitch, and direct your attention to I would say no more than 3 aspects of your company that you want the other party to get and take away with. So that means it needs to be clear. It should clearly articulate and state, this is the service your company provides. And in the government contracting arena, it should have some key information. It should have your NAICS codes. These are the services that you provide by NAICS. We design things by NAICS from the federal government. If you have any, they should know how to reach you. How do I contract with you? So if you have a GSA or other type of schedule, you can make that easy too. You can put that information on there.
Okay.
If you want your contact information, you'd be surprised when people don't have contact information on the literature they hand out to make that easy. So your elevator pitch should be able to be made from your capability statement in the briefing. It should be 1 page at most, front and back.
Okay. So that leads me right into the business card, because you said in the article something that I think everybody needs to hear about their business card. Please share that.
Right. So after speaking at numerous conferences, you may come up to me and I may be real impressed with you, Don, and that's great. So I'm going to walk away.
How could he not be?
You're right. I'm going to walk from a conference with a stack of business cards. So 2 things I say there. 1, with your business card, I should be able to write on your business card.
Okay, leave some space, right?
I need some space and I need a surface. So I do not like laminated business cards, and I do not like business cards because my pen will not write on it. I said, boy, Don's a great company, had an idea. It'll start writing. I get back to the office. It has a conference all week. I get back to the conference Monday morning, got a stack of them. I was going to do something with this card. I don't know what it was. Oh, well.
File 13, right?
Or if you've got a card that says there's no room to write on it at all. There should be a little bit of room to write on it. And being able to write on it, preferably if it's a light color.
Okay.
Some people have multiple colored cards, but particularly sometimes the back will be, oh, there's nothing on the back. But it's all black or dark blue. And guess what? I'm writing on a black pen. I don't know what I remember. That is another File 13 card. So not laminated, clear. In my own personal business cards, for instance, I pay a little bit more for them, but they're fairly clear. You can write on it. But mine are a little bit thicker, so they stand out when people give them to them, and they're oval shaped.
Yep, oh, and I like that oval shape.
They're rounded on the corner, so that means if you get a stack of them, mine will stick out. It'll be a little bit thicker, and it'll be rounded.
Oh, okay, it's the feel.
The feel, yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, they cost me more, but I get positive comments on that, and people can write notes on them as well when I hand them to them. So, yeah, the laminated cards, one big no I saw one time at a conference was a woman on small business. She is a general contractor, construction firm. So not only being laminated, I went home and took this business card and told my kids, this is what you don't do. This is how. But it had a beautiful picture, beautiful woman on the front of the business card. But she had like a hat like you would wear to church Sunday, like a fashion statement. But you're in construction.
Your construction.
So I don't really need to see your picture. And if you were maybe into fashion or had like a boutique designer, maybe that'd be appropriate.
That might be appropriate.
But it didn't fit the industry, and there was no place to write on the card. It was laminated. It had a picture on it.
See, that's important because the business card is the first thing that most businesses do.
Right.
And nobody tells them what not to do in a business card.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that because most important thing, if you're going to start branding yourself, you might as well start doing it right. And stay away from dark colors.
Yes,
stay away from pictures, stay away from lamination, and don't crowd the entire card. Right.
Let it have space for if you hand this out to either at a strategic partner, at a networking event or wherever you are, if you want someone to take away, hey, I want to follow up with Don, there should be a room on there for me to write a quick note to myself that I know that I can get back into them.
John, I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much for coming.
Glad to be
I'm going to
here.
bring you back because we need to talk about a couple of more issues that we didn't get a chance to get to today.
Yes, look forward to it. Thank you.
My friends, thank you for being with us, as usual. I hope you had a really informative time with us, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And you'll see John again, okay? Because he's got more information for us. Take care.